Sarah had always been punctual. Her friends joked that she was practically a human clock, never missing a beat when it came to appointments or meetings. So when she received an invitation to a cabin in the woods for a weekend getaway with friends, she made sure to plan every detail. The drive to the cabin was uneventful, just the hum of the engine and the rhythmic turning of the tires on the asphalt. As she neared the cabin, her GPS flickered, losing its signal. No matter, she was only a few miles away. Suddenly, a thick fog descended on the road. The trees blurred, their shapes distorted in the mist. Sarah slowed down, squinting to see through the windshield. The clock on her dashboard read 5:45 p.m. She remembered glancing at it, thinking she'd arrived just in time to catch the sunset. But the road seemed endless. It twisted and turned, far longer than she remembered from the map. The fog clung to her car, growing denser, until it was like driving through a cloud. She could barely see the road ahead. Finally, the fog lifted as suddenly as it had appeared. The cabin was in sight, the lights warm and inviting. Sarah breathed a sigh of relief as she parked her car and grabbed her bags. When she walked into the cabin, her friends were already sitting by the fire. They all turned to her, expressions of surprise and concern on their faces. "Where have you been?" her friend Emily asked, standing up. "What do you mean?" Sarah replied. "I'm right on time." "No, Sarah, you're not." Emily's voice was tense. "It's almost midnight. You were supposed to be here hours ago." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She looked at her phone. The time read 11:53 p.m. She stared at it, uncomprehending. She had left her house at 4 p.m. The drive should have taken no more than 2 hours. How could so much time have passed? Her friends exchanged uneasy glances as she tried to explain the fog, the strange stretch of road that seemed to go on forever, but they just shook their heads. "Sarah," Emily said gently, "there is no fog here, and the road to the cabin is a straight shot. There are no turns, no twists. We've all been here dozens of times." Sarah's head spun as she tried to make sense of it. She felt a creeping sense of dread. Had she driven for hours without realizing it? But there was no fatigue, no feeling of lost time, just that strange, endless road. They tried to comfort her, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The night passed uneasily, and the next morning she decided to leave early. As she drove back, the road was clear, the way home easy and familiar. But when she reached her house, her heart sank. The clocks in her home showed a different time. A full day had passed. The missing hours haunted her. She couldn't account for them, couldn't explain where she had been or what had happened during that time. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that fog, heard the hum of the engine, felt the endless stretch of road beneath her tires. Weeks later, Sarah received a letter in the mail. There was no return address, just her name scrawled on the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message written in shaky, uneven handwriting. "You were never alone on that road. They were watching. They know you remember." Sarah's blood ran cold. The missing time was gone forever, but something had followed her back, and it wasn't done with her yet. Jenny was a college student who often worked late at the campus library. One evening, she decided to stay until closing time to finish a big project. The library was quiet, with only a few other students scattered around. By 11 p.m., she was one of the last people left, working diligently at her desk. Around midnight, Jenny decided to call it a night. She packed up her things and headed for the exit. As she walked through the empty library, she glanced at her watch, 12:15 a.m. The campus was dark and silent as she made her way to the parking lot. Jenny's car was parked in the far corner of the lot. She unlocked it, got inside, and started the engine. She drove off, taking her usual route home. But as she approached her apartment, she noticed something strange. Her phone, which she had set to vibrate, was flashing with missed calls and text messages. She stopped at a red light, checked her phone, and saw several messages from friends and family asking if she was okay. They were concerned because it was already 3:30 a.m. Jenny was puzzled. How had 3.5 hours slipped by? She clearly remembered leaving the library at 12:15 a.m. There was no traffic jam, no unusual delay, just an unaccounted for gap in time. The next morning, Jenny decided to retrace her steps. She went back to the library and asked if anyone had noticed anything unusual. The staff assured her that the library had been closed promptly at midnight and there were no issues. Jenny checked her car for any signs of tampering, but everything seemed normal. The missing time remained a mystery. She started to feel anxious, haunted by the hours that had seemingly vanished without a trace. Over the next few weeks, Jenny's unease grew. She had trouble sleeping and often felt like she was being watched. She even started avoiding the library, afraid that she might experience the same phenomenon again. One night, while doing some research online, Jenny stumbled across a forum discussing similar experiences of missing time. The stories were unsettling, with people reporting unexplained gaps in their memories and bizarre encounters. One story caught her attention. A user had described a similar experience at a location with a history of paranormal activity. Jenny decided to investigate further. She learned that the library where she had been working was built on what used to be Native American sacred land. The library's construction had uncovered some artifacts that were supposedly taken by government officials. Local legends spoke of strange occurrences in the area after the desecration of the land. Though she couldn't find concrete evidence to explain the missing hours, the eerie coincidences left Jenny with an unsettling feeling. The unexplained time loss became a haunting reminder of the unknown and the possibility that there were forces beyond her understanding at play. There are 3 hours of my time that I can't account for from last month, and here's how it happened. I work as a warehouse manager for a wholesale business in Los Angeles. It's been a month since I moved from Montana to take this job, and everything had been going well for me until one afternoon, right before lunch break. We had trucks go out with packages in the morning, so I was coordinating with our warehouse workers to get the afternoon batch ready. After I gave my instructions to the team, I went into the office to check on some bills of landing and purchase orders that were queued. In the office were Felicia, our receptionist, and Hugo, our spreadsheet guy. I sat at my desk and was about to input my passcode to access our system when I suddenly blacked out. I think that's the best way to describe what happened because when I came to, 3 hours had passed from the moment I attempted to punch in my code. At first, I thought I had dozed off for a short while, but then I saw the clock on my monitor and thought, surely the system clock is way off, but it wasn't. So the next thing I did was pull up the footage from the security cameras. We have cameras installed everywhere. I was told that the warehouse was robbed a few months back, and since then the security had been heavily upgraded. I watched the footage, and I was instantly shocked. I saw myself working, or at least doing something at my desk, for the 3 hours that I have no memory of. As I skipped through the timeline, I saw myself talking to Felicia and Hugo, and walking out of the office, presumably for lunch, and then coming back after about 40 minutes. But I have no memories of doing any of those things, and I was still hungry. In my mind, the 3 hours don't exist. I spoke to Felicia very cautiously so as not to make her think I was going crazy. I tried to find out what we talked about, and she told me I asked her what she was having for lunch. After coming back from lunch, apparently, I asked her to call one of our clients to inform them of some business-related matters. I spoke to Hugo as well, and our conversation wasn't much different. It was the usual lunch talk followed by business talk. So here's the deal. I don't have any medical condition that would make me forget things. Something like this has never happened to me before, and I'm a well-functioning human being. If I had amnesia, then I should have either experienced something similar in the past or had a relapse since the last incident a month ago, but I didn't. So where did my 3 hours of memories go? And if the person in the security footage wasn't me, then who was he? My best friend tells me I should forget about it since there's no explanation for what happened to me. But I bet he'd feel differently if the same thing happened to him. Think about it. Just imagine how scared you'd feel if you could see yourself performing your normal routine on camera but had no recollection of doing those things. I've been looking all over the internet to try to see if anyone can shed light on my situation, but so far, no luck. Right now, all I hope is that it doesn't happen again, and I don't even care about the answers anymore. I'm scared. I'm truly terrified for the first time in my life.